Hey guys, it's Ashley with Bigger Than the Three of Us. I am here today to give you a step-by-step tutorial for reupholstering seat cushions of dining chairs. So I had never worked with leather before as far as recovering chairs. I've worked with leather in leather projects, but I had never tried working with leather for recovering dining room chairs, but I did it right here and it was simple. So it was very similar to using regular upholstery fabric or just regular cotton fabric or whatever fabric you've used before or you want to use. So it's the same process. So this tutorial will show me working with leather, but it's the same process for recovering any type of seat cushion that's similar to a cushion like this. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, I started recovering some vintage chairs when we first moved into this house about 4 years ago. I have probably recovered about 12. So I'm by no means a professional, but I do think it's a project that you can do at home, especially if your chair cushion is something like this. So it's pretty simple amount of tools. Each chair will take you 30 minutes to an hour depending on how many staples or brads are in the original upholstery fabric, but we will get into that in just a second. Okay, so I have my chair here that I'm going to work on. What you need to do first is flip over your chair to the underside and see how it's attached. This chair, and actually the other ones I've done as well, have been attached with screws, so you can either grab just simple screwdrivers, or you can get your drill out and unscrew the screws on the bottom of your chair. So let's go ahead and do that. Make sure you save your screws because you'll be putting them back in after your project's over. Okay, I'm done with my chair base right now, so I'm just going to push it out of the way. All I need is the seat itself. So I have recovered this chair before, and last time I was using a very thin fabric. So what I did was I just recovered the new fabric over the old fabric. So it's not a big deal, but what that means is that I'm going to have to take off both fabrics. It's just going to take me a little bit more time because the leather that I'm using is a lot thicker, and there's no way that 3 fabrics or even a thick fabric can go over an original fabric. So to take off the fabrics, what I'm going to use is, when I recovered it, I see staples. So some of these staplers come with like a tool, I don't know what it's called, staple getter outer, but it's very similar to like a flathead screwdriver. So if you have that tool in your stapler, you can use it. Flathead screwdriver works just as well. And so my stapler didn't come with that, so I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver and then a pair of pliers. What I'm going to do is take the tip of the screwdriver underneath each of the staples and just pop it out. Occasionally one gets stuck, and if that's the case, I'll use the pliers and pull it out. So these staples are kind of in there, so I'm loosening them up. One side is coming out very easily with the flathead, and so then I have one side up, and then I'm using the pliers to just pull it out. As you can see, I've almost got one side completely done. I'll just keep working my way around. Sometimes you can, if your fabric's thicker, you can use your pliers or your fingers and just start tugging the fabric, and the staples or brads will just rip right out. This fabric that I used is a lot thinner, and so the fabric itself is just ripping. So it's just easier to use my tools to get the staples out first. Okay, I've got my top fabric off. If you only had one layer on your seat, then you would be on to the next step, but I have another layer to go. Just a quick tip, I like to use the fabric on my seat as the template for cutting for the fabric I'm putting on. It makes it really simple. So I'm going to keep this and use that as my template, and make sure you keep yours for the next step. Alright, the next step is, for me, is to take off this fabric. This is the original fabric, and I actually kind of like it. The seat cushions, this one doesn't look too bad, but the other ones were like stained, and so that's why I decided to reupholster them in the first place. But the back of this one, they've used brads in most spots and then staples in others. And so for the brads, it works best for thicker fabric to kind of pull and loosen and kind of just work your way around after you find an area that you can loosen. And to loosen, I will pull with my fingers or a pair of pliers. The brads are kind of like nails, or they are nails, I think. And so I have a hammer with and I will use this end of the hammer to get the nails out as well. Usually the corners are the best places to start, but as soon as you can get one corner going, I just got my first brad out, then you usually can work your way from there. At this point, what you can do is you can take off your fabric. So this is a very old chair. I think it's from the 50s. And so the cushion part could probably stand to be replaced. Since I already have 3 that are reupholstered, if I replace this cushion, I'd have to be careful on getting the same size foam, like how deep it is. And so I'm going to just leave it here. But if you were replacing a cushion, just one of them, this is comfy enough, but it is an easy fix to update your cushion as well. You can just get that at a craft store, and then you can just cut it. Actually, you can cut it with like a turkey knife, like an electric one, or just like a regular steak knife will cut it too. Like I said, I'm going to keep mine because I already have chairs reupholstered and I want the foam to be the same size, but you could go ahead and update your foam at this time too. So what I did just there is I saw a tack sticking up, and it wasn't sticking up enough to hurt somebody because the foam covered it, but I was able to hammer it down the opposite way and then just pull it out. Alright, so at this time what I'm going to do is cut my new fabric, and if you have a seat without fabric on it, you can use this as a template. What you would want to do is just go about, I like to give myself lots of room, so you could leave yourself 3 inches on all sides of fabric so that you have enough fabric to pull on the back when we upholster it. But like I had mentioned earlier, I like to use the seat cushion fabric that was originally there as my template. I think that makes it easier. I will mention that sometimes you have to trim your fabric for your seat cushion as you're reupholstering it. So it's a smart idea to just go a little bit bigger on your leather piece or whichever piece you're using than your template, but it's a really good guideline to use. Then what you need to do is lay the side that you want to sit on face down on the floor. Next, you want the cushion part of the chair, and then lastly, the wood part of the chair. You can either use staples, and I usually use, if I'm going to use staples, I usually use lightweight staples, usually 5/8 inch, or you can use brads. And this time I think I'm going to use brads, and these are 5/8 inch. Okay, so I have my brads loaded, and you can use staples if you want, and I just tested this out and it shot out fine. And so what I'm going to do next is I like to place brads or staples in the middle section of, if you think of a chair as a square, is that a square? Well, you know what I mean, like square. I like to place staples in the middle section of each side, or brads if you're going to use them. Just two, about an inch or two apart, and then I like to make sure everything looks good, that it's not pulling, and then I will work my way out from there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You want to pull your fabric tightly, but not too tight. And you just kind of have to check as you're pulling to make sure it's looking good. So I've done two sides. I'm going to finish the other two. Okay. So as you can see, I put in 2 brads here, 2 brads here, 2 brads here, and 2 brads here. And I pulled tightly and then checked to make sure I was pulling tight enough, but not too tight. And this is how it's looking right now. You can see there's a little bit of bubbling, a little bit of extra fabric, but that's because this looks good. We still have more to pull on bottoms and tops, and that will, this is like kind of where you want it to look. So now I'm just going to go back to all the sides, and I'm going to add brads here and here on all these sides, and I'm going to pull decently tight as I'm doing that so that my fabric is even tighter, and then I will come back and do the corners last. Okay, so this is what my seat cushion's looking like right now. All I have to do now is the corners. The corners are the hardest to do, and there's lots of different methods I think you can do. I like to pull the front of the corner, so like on the front of the seat, I like to pull the front portion back and make the fold towards the side. So you're going to end up having to staple the front back and then work the fabric so that the extra fabric folds in on each other and that the fold is on the side. That's how I like to do it. And when you're working with the corners, you just kind of have to work with the fabric until you get the cleanest. It's not a seam, but you're trying to round the corner a little bit with fabric that doesn't want to do that. So you just want to work with the fabric until you get the cleanest fold that you possibly can. I will have to say that the leather, since it's thicker, it is a little bit harder than a thinner fabric is a little bit easier to work with. Now that I have the seat cushion upholstered, I'm going to put it on the chair and kind of check just to make sure it looks good. Okay. Okay, all that's left to do now is attach the seat to the chair using the screws that we took out when we started, and then you are done. So I hope you liked this tutorial, and I have lots more tutorials in my project gallery at biggerthanthethreeofus.com if you want to look through and find something else that you might be interested in. Make sure to thumbs up this video if you liked it, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would love that.